What's going on? I'm Scooter Bronson,
And I'm at Foster.
and you listening to the Viewers Anonymous podcast. What's going on with you, bro?
Oh man. Yo, straight up excited for this one, man. This is something that we actually talked about for a while. Like this was one of those ones where if it's been people that's been with us since the beginning, this was one of those ones that we talked about before we went on like a 3-4 months hiatus. And it was like this was one of the things that we talked
This is supposed to
about.
be one of the early ones.
Yeah. I think this was actually supposed to have been like the third episode. And it just like, you know what I'm saying, we never got to it, but we rocking and rolling it now. And I'm extremely excited to get this one in.
Yeah, man, you don't get too many opportunities to see something that was put together this well, man. Yeah, I'm excited with you, man.
Yeah, man, and doing these type of episodes it's a lot more difficult to do because I feel like anytime you're doing a series, and this would be our second one. We did Hunters on the first time around that was on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
And so this time, you know what I'm saying, we're taking a page out of the Netflix book, and we doing a series this time on Mindhunters, man. And this was one of the most, like, I got a habit of doing this, and this was definitely in my at least top 3 Netflix shows that they done came out with, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you, man. It's like I said, man. It's not often you get a chance to see something like this put together, especially put together so well. When I had first watched it, I didn't know exactly what it was. I thought it was like something totally different. I thought it was like Area 50 type shit. And then once I got into it and started watching it, I just instantly got hooked. And man, I was ready for it. Every episode, I'm like, yeah, this is the one. I think I binge watched it in a weekend.
Dude, I think I did the same thing. And then it's it's nice, but it's upsetting at the same time because it's like you start watching it, and it's so captivating, and it pulls you in so much that it's like, and then Netflix gets you with the automatically starting the new episode shit. So it's like it don't even really give you that chance to be like, nah, man, I'm gonna save this one for later. That bitch already started playing, so you're like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and watch this one, and then you watch it in the weekend. And you like, nah, fuck this shit. They need to give me a season 2, like in 2 months. And it's like, that's not how that shit work. Like, it don't work that way. And like, that's how I was, man. I finished it so fast. And it was like, fuck, man. It was like, man, I need some more of this. And then, but the great thing about it was they was able to get a new season within, I think it was a 2-year frame, because the first season came out in 2017.
Yeah.
And the last season came out 2019, and I think when you look at the writing, the way it was shot, I mean, you got to include the locations, you got to talk about the costumes, the directing, like everything that was put into it. It seemed like 2 years. I think it really takes that much to get that type of work done, and I think that they did it perfectly.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the show, man, and you know what I'm saying, you're talking about the writing, and you look at the way that everything is kind of placed within this whole realistic world, because it's not necessarily the real life events, but you know what I'm saying, it's all based around real life events. But the way that they had put everything together and made this all happen, it was really just like a dope ass account of some shit happening in the FBI. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of times you really see, like, and personally, you know what I'm saying, to sit down and watch like this. I want to say it's a psychological thriller, but it's not even a thriller. It's more like a psychological mystery.
Yeah, I mean, I can. Yeah,
really,
I can see that.
Like for them to, I know, but you know, what I'm saying, for them to place everything the way that they placed it. I mean, it was dope as shit, man. You know what I'm saying? To use real life people and this story around it, and to, like you said, to shoot it the way they did, and you know what I'm saying, the excitement of it all, and you know what I'm saying, it was a couple twists that was put in there too. So I mean, it was all, you know what I'm saying, it was all pretty exciting, man.
Yeah, man, and like even the way it started, it was one of those, type of negotiating situations, and you introduce the Holden Ford, like, you see him talking to this dude, and like he knows exactly what to do. He knows exactly how to deal with this guy. And so the guy, like, he wanted his girlfriend there, and he had, it was a kid. I think he had that kid with him. And he knew if the girlfriend was there, the dude, whole intentions was to kill himself in front of the girl. And I think Holden knew that from the rip. But he wanted to try to save the whole situation. And he lost a hostage, well, not a hostage, but he lost his perpetrator. And I think that for a guy to be the way that he is, because you could tell when you look at his apartment, the way that he does his clothes, he wear the same thing every day. He always got a tie on. He never wants to switch anything up. And like, you see the ADD in him. And for him to lose that first person, and then you start to realize, which was pretty early in the episodes, where it show you how he is like very ADD about things. And it's like, yo, this is going to be something to really pay attention to. And Mindhunter is one of those shows where even my second time around of rewatching it, I didn't pick my phone up, man.
Yeah, that's the same here, man. I don't think I was on my phone once. Like I said, I'm activating with, like you said, as soon as it comes on, it's instant. You know what I'm saying? It ain't like no drawn out story. It ain't no extra stuff to where it's a build up. It's just like right to the punch, and it introduces you to the main character in a way that, you know what I'm saying, like a lot of shows don't do. You know what I'm saying? They usually draw it out, and then you go through 3 or 4 backstories before you really get the understanding of the guy. But you know what I'm saying, like in this one, coming to it, you ought to, you know what I'm saying, you know what he does. You can kind of get a feel for his personality and who he is. You can actually just kind of get a feel of, like you said, the whole AD concept. Like, for him to have that, and for him to be so meticulous with everything that he's doing. And then you could tell that he's like, in a sense, he's like a Sherlock Holmes type character. Like, he kind of, you know what I'm saying, he's kind of deducing everything as it's happening in real time, and he's like kind of getting the solutions as it's coming along just as fast. And for me, I think that the actor was great in this. First off, the actor did his thing, but just that character in general, I think the way that they wrote that character was amazing. So so everything is basically, just to give a quick synopsis, everything is basically these 2 FBI agents. They are basically put into this subdivision of the FBI, which eventually becomes like the intelligence interrogation division of the FBI. They build this program up, and they get help from, I think is she like a psychiatrist or something? Doctor or something like that?
She's from Philadelphia. I forgot what she actually did when she was in Philadelphia, but yeah, Dr. Wendy Ford, like when
she was a doctor though. Okay.
Yeah. But I think her doctoring was in I think it was in no, Dr. Carr. Dr. Wendy Carr. I think her doctoring was in psychology though, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then. So she was, you know what I'm saying, she was like a psychiatrist or whatever. They put these 3 together to basically kind of profile murders, and you know what I'm saying, well, mass murders, really, not just regular murders, but mass murders, you know what I'm saying? I guess you could say super criminals, just the type of criminals that, you know what I'm saying, at the time were becoming famous, you know what I'm saying, out for the murders that were getting too much press and, you know what I'm saying, that people that, you know, like the most wanted and all that. And they were helping to basically develop this database of America's top criminals. And I think that the way that they, you know what I'm saying, did that was kind of dope because they eventually started going to some of these, you know what I'm saying, criminals that we know of, and they were locked up and they were interviewing them and interrogating them and asking them questions and really getting inside their mind of how they think and using that to basically go on this rat race of chasing this killer that eventually we find out is the BTK killer.
Yeah, like, because what they was doing, like, it was so interesting for them to even team up Holding Ford and Bill Tench the way that they did, because they was like total opposite of the spectrum. Like, they had absolutely nothing in common. Tench was an older guy. He was, you know what I'm saying, family man. Holden, really barely even had a girlfriend, no kids. And he's just like obsessed with like making change and obsessed of like reaching his goal that he wanted to be like in the FBI. And like Tench was just really like, it seemed like he was just a really by the book type of guy. And it was like, so the FBI teamed them up to go around and teach these tactics to cops, you know. So they just traveling around, like, 'cause that's how they even started being on the road. Like, they were just going on the road to just, you know, teach them these certain tactics to try to get them to, before they even came up with the term serial killer, because in the 70s it wasn't a such thing. Like, they didn't come up with that terminology yet. So they was going around and doing that, but what ended up happening is these cops would tell them about these cases that they got going on. So they started to come up with a thing to use these type of tactics, like in present time, to see if they could actually catch a killer, because like you said, they was going around and talking to guys that was already locked up. So they was using the tactics from talking to these guys, and it also helped them. The biggest help was them talking to Kemper, because Kemper was very forthcoming. Like, he loved to talk about the damn crazy shit that he did.
Now he was super interesting though. I think he was the most interesting out of all of them.
Yes, I think he was too. And with him being so forthcoming about it, and like, I think that it captivated Holden in a way where like they did build like this crazy type of friendship type of thing. And I don't think that Holden really like looked at him as a friend, but it was like Kemper, he actually looked at him like as a friend because of the way that they was able to communicate these type of things. And it was weird to watch that interaction with them, because the thing, like, every time I seen them two on screen, like, I just never remembered. Like, I can't think of the last time where I can watch something and I could just see two people, and well, three people, because, well, Tench didn't want to go.
Yeah, so Tench didn't really do too much.
Yeah, especially when it came to Kemper. He felt like Kemper was really a kind of a waste of time. But he didn't really want to do it from the beginning. But what ended up happening was, like, Tench got, you know, he got pulled in. Like, I think it's a hard thing not to get sucked in. Like, like if we're going around and we interviewing these, I mean, look how much America is attached to these type people. Like, how many things did they put out on what's my man name? Ted Bundy.
Oh, wait,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I watched all them shits. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, they putting this stuff out. But I will say, speaking of that, the one that with Zac Efron,
yeah, I heard that's amazing.
I got look, I never thought Zac Efron was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't really get the whole thing with him, but like, he really showed me range in this. Like, I was like, yo, okay, I see the talent that they was talking about. But to get back to it, like, Tench, like, he wasn't really into it at first, but then, like, it's got to be hard to balance family, job, and the type of shit that they was doing, because like this type of stuff that they was doing could affect the future. So it's like my whole thing with that was like I really didn't like how Tinch's wife was acting to a lot of the stuff. Like I felt like I get it, he's away, but it was kind of like, I mean, is this something that you really want to do right now? Like this ain't something that could hold off. But a lot of that is really season 2. But what was I got a question for you. What was your initial reaction to the girl that Holden was dating throughout season 1?
I thought it was odd. Just the fact that he eventually attracted a girl to me. It could have did without everything. I mean, she eventually became like a way for him to open up and, you know what I'm saying, like be a little bit better. But for just for his personality, I just thought that was odd. But you was talking about Kemper, and I think that out of all of those people, out of all of the criminals that they interview, I think that Kemper, to me, for me, that relationship, to me, I felt like it was more so of like a friendly rivalry than it was a friendship.
Okay.
I thought because it was, and it may have Holden kind of went into it as well, but I didn't really see it starting off as a friendship, only because at first it was one of those things where it was like Kemper, you know what I'm saying? Kemper kind of set the tone for it, you know what I'm saying? He wanted to kind of test them in order for them to really get, you know what I'm saying, everything that he was willing to give them. And then like eventually you started to see what ended up becoming like a mental game of chess between, you know what I'm saying, the two. And they was going back and forth with, you know what I'm saying, with Holden trying to get the information from him, which he, you know what I'm saying, eventually would do. And then, you know what I'm saying, with Kemper just basically trying to see that, you know what I'm saying, trying to see if he was worthy of getting this information. And for me, I just felt like it was more so like a game of wits than it was like a friendship thing. But that relationship between him and the girl, I didn't understand that at all. It seemed kind of odd and out of place to me.
Like what was odd to me about the relationship was because I liked her character, because I felt like he needed a girl to, like if Holden had a girlfriend, like he needed a girlfriend to be aggressive like she was. Like he needed a girl to pull him out of those type of habits that he had. Like she would like make fun of him for always wearing a suit and tie. Like she would try to force him to buy another pair of shoes. Like all that type stuff. I felt like he needed that type stuff to, I mean, you shouldn't do things to fit in with society, but like Holden was so odd. He was so caught up in his work. It was like he needed just a little bit of like, you know, a little bit of chill. And I felt like she gave that to him. But what I thought was odd was the fact of how much he shared with her about the cases that he was working. Because
see, that's what I ain't like. That's what I'm saying. It was just odd.
Yeah, because it's like my interpretation, it's like those jobs are pretty like top secret. Like it ain't shit that you're supposed to be sharing with people, especially somebody that you didn't even marry. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And that's what I'm saying. Like, and then in a weird way, she was like kind of helping him with the shit, and it was just too odd for me, bro.
Yeah, I felt like it was kind of wild, but I think that what was really crazy about it was that he's talking to these dudes who commit these sexual crimes to these women. And then he would find similarities in some of the things that they were saying, and he was using like those same tactics on his girl.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes it wasn't nothing. And then sometimes it was something, then it turned it out to be something. But
Mm-hmm.
it was like, yeah, like, I just wanted your opinion on it because I remember watching it and it's just like, this relationship seems so odd. And it's like, I didn't understand her attraction to him. Like, I got his attraction to her, but I didn't
Right.
get her attraction to him.
Well,
And
that's what
it was just weird. And I
that's
just
one of
felt
the
like,
things. That's one of the things I was hinting at with the Kemper situation. Like, you know what I'm saying? I mentioned Kemper because to me that was the person that he was really going toe to toe with. But any of these conversations that they were having or any of these interrogations that they were having, it always seemed like it was like a mental chess game between Holden and the criminal. And I think what the show kind of did in a small way, probably without even really intentionally doing it, was just showing you how similar, you know what I'm saying, that these two entities can be. You know what I'm saying? Like, we knew Holden wasn't going to um he wasn't going to go into this like sexual deviant mode and then, like, you know what I'm saying, like have sex with a girl and kill him. But just the fact that he had the mental capacity to even do some of the shit that they were doing, it kind of showed you that, you know what I'm saying, like they were both on the same level. They just kind of took two different paths, you know what I'm saying, to get to where they were eventually at.
yeah, and I think that their motivations was totally different. Like Holden,
Yeah.
he was very, like, he was so caught up in his work. Like he was obsessed with his work. You know, the same way that these killers was obsessed with doing the things that they was doing. So like,
Right.
yeah, I see what you're saying by the similarities, but they just took different routes. And like
Mm-hmm.
when you sit back and you watch, like the way Holden would light up to get something that he wanted when he would talk to these serial killers. But
Mm-hmm.
then, like, this is the only thing that was upsetting to me was the fact of, I feel like the whole intentions of what they was doing was like the line that Tench used: how can we understand crazy if we don't talk to crazy? So
Right.
it's like the only way to understand them and try to, use these tactics to try to catch them is we have to understand how they think. So when Holden would think the way that they think and talk the way that they talk, they would get on the Holden. I'm like, well, I mean, that's the type of language that they know. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't understand. I think it's because it was the 70s, and I think that, just certain things were just politically correct. So they
Right.
didn't really want some of the stuff to be, what I'm saying, on tape. But I'm like, if to get them to talk, if this is the best way to get them to talk, like, I don't see what the problem was. So I just thought that was, I think that it had to do with being PC in that time frame. I think that had a
Mm-hmm.
lot to do with them getting upset with Holden the way that they did, because Holden found himself really on the verge of getting fired like 3 times throughout these 2
Yeah.
seasons. But
Yeah.
Tench took his back. Carr took his back. Even
Mm-hmm.
though they would be mad as fuck at him, but like they knew this dude was special. Like they knew the tactics that he took was special. So like even though the bosses, especially the first one, that
Yeah.
motherfucker wanted Holden out of there, and
Well,
he ended up.
I think that I think that what happened is that when because even when Dr. Carr was even going back and listening to the tapes, like it was you could kind of see you could kind of hear the similarities between Holden and the criminal. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm saying. Like Holden and the criminal was really just opposite sides of the spectrum. It was damn near like yin and yang. Like the fact that he can really just like talk to them and then instantly get into that mindset of who they were, how they were, and then just basically mimic who, you know what I'm saying, that personality. I think that's what really scared them because it was like, okay, this is something that's never been done before, and we don't know if, you know what I'm saying, if we expose him to this, could he possibly become one of these people? Because I mean, he had the brain for it. And then, you know what I'm saying, like he was basically on the inside, so it wasn't like they would have been able to easily find out. And then he was doing the work to find out about shit like this. So it wasn't like they already had the processes, you know what I'm saying, already in place. So I think that was one of the things that they kind of looked at that was, you know what I'm saying, like a little like, all right, we gotta back off this shit because now it's getting a little too serious. It's getting to the point to where we might have one of our own end up turning on us. At least that's what I got out of it.
But isn't that the same thing as putting a guy undercover? Because you're not gonna put a guy undercover, like you're not gonna put like you. I mean, think about like In Too Deep. You know what I'm saying? One of the great movies. Like it's called In Too Deep because there was times where he was actually thinking like them, and you had to think like them so you wouldn't get caught up. So it's like I don't know if it was just the times or what, but I feel like that's what you want out of a person when you send them undercover to take somebody down. I feel like it's kind of in a way the same thing.
Yeah, I agree with you on the PC-ness of the time. I think that was one of the things. Well, that was really the main reason they were kind of holding him back because remember at the time none of this was like standard procedure. This is something that's being created. So when you know what I'm saying, I think the boss he really just didn't understand what they were doing really because they didn't have the tangible evidence and the tangible proof that this shit was working yet. And I think that when the new boss came in and he was like, yo, let's get behind this and let's make this shit happen. And you know what I'm saying? Like they got into the new building and all that shit. Like that's when you kind of seen like this shit was really coming to work because I think by the time the new boss got in, they had like solved a case or something like that, didn't they?
Yeah, and that's what ended up getting. Because remember, when they wanted to start this behavioral science unit, they didn't have no backing. Like they didn't have any funding or nothing like that. They didn't have their office, and then it ended up putting them down in the basement. And so then they was down in the basement for a while, and then they solved the case, and then like the governor or whoever it was had gave them like $1 million or some type of shit or something to form this unit. And that's when they was able to put Dr. Carr on. Because see, Dr. Carr, she was just consulting in the beginning.
Yeah, she was like an advisor.
Yeah. And then when they was able to get that budget, that's when she came on full time. Yeah. And that's when they hired the damn rat dude. Oh, man, listen, that dude got on my nerves, but I was like, man, really? Like, is what we doing?
To me, he was like, if Tench was younger, I think that's who Tench would have been. Because he was too by the books, man. He was too like he was, and then on top of that, like he had that little hint of jealousy in him too.
Dude, you took that shit right. I didn't even think about that shit. Like it does seem like he was a younger Tench. And the situation we're talking about is there was a situation where Holden went in, and Holden was talking to this guy. And like I said, he started using his language type of shit. Mm-hmm. And so Holden started saying some shit that was, I mean, it was inappropriate, but it was inappropriate to get something out of the criminal. And so
it was necessary.
Yeah, it was necessary to get, because they ended up getting out of him what they needed after Holden started talking like that. Yep. So the dude asked, was there any evidence of this? And they say, no, we had a tape malfunction. Mm-hmm. So they all agreed, even the dude, because they even brought the dude up. And Holden got the dude to lie in front of the captain guy. Yep. And then he went down to the basement, took the tape, and mailed that shit somewhere. And so then the tape get out. And then it's like, and then they're all under investigation. And then he comes out and say that, oh, well, Holden forced me to say it. And it's like, man, you don't take your snake ass on somewhere. Like
I don't think he was ready for that, man. He wasn't ready for that. And then they had him at like an intern or some shit, so he wasn't really doing, you know what I'm saying, a lot. And then I think what really scared him is when they took him on that first run, when he had to really get into some shit and do some shit. I think that's what really scared him, because to me it seemed like all he was doing was pushing paper.
Yeah, and then he realized, because Dr. Carr had him be the lead, because what was happening was like I said, when they
Mm-hmm.
got the funding, like Holden and Tench, they was solving live cases, like cases that was still going on where they could actually catch the killer.
Yeah.
So they was always gone. So they wanted to keep the studies going. So my man and Dr. Carr had to go do the
Mm-hmm.
interview, and they came up with this script, and they kept telling Holden to go to the script, and Holden was like, I can't stick to the script. Like the script,
Right.
you don't know, like you got to be able to come out the top of the dome when you're talking to these people, because they're unpredictable people. Like that's why we're here, because you don't understand them.
That was an interesting thing too. That was very interesting too, because Holden. We mentioned how Holden was so ADD and meticulous about everything that he did, but it seemed like when he would go do those interrogations, he would get out of that. He would lose that whole process. Like he lost everything about that. He was that just escaped him. And I think that when they were talking about him going by the script and then him, you know what I'm saying, like reading the script and sticking to it, it was like, I think that was one of the things that kind of showed that, because you would think that somebody who's so to the point, always in the process, 1, 2, 3, 4 in order, that, you know what I'm saying, like he could easily veer off of it. Once he started getting into interrogations, he became like a different person.
But at the same time, I think that person was needed, because remember, when they asked my man to take lead, he couldn't do it. And
Yeah.
and the killer was looking at him like, dude, what's wrong with you? And then Dr. Carr did it. And what the fuck did Dr. Carr do? She went off script and she started doing the same damn shit that Holden was doing. And then that's what Holden was trying to get them to understand. It's like, yo, it's different when you're there, when you actually in the cell with a person that has murdered a lot of people. You can't go by the book, go by the script to try to figure out how to crack them. You have to go off the field. Right. That's just like, if you got a great point guard, you don't want to sit there and call every play. Like that's what Rondo demise was with the Dallas, because Rick Carlisle likes to call every play. It's like Rondo was a flow of the game type of point guard, and like that was Holden. Holden was like, I feel, you know what I'm saying, what's going on, and then once I get the feel of it, I know how to go from it. And that's what they knew what was valuable about him. And I think that's when Dr. Carr started to switch over. I think that when she actually went out to the field and actually started interviewing these people, she was like, well, fuck, I'm sitting around here mad at Holden for going off script. And everything he said is right. It's like, when you in front of these people, you can't go off no script, man.
Yeah. I think she understood, you know what I'm saying, that what he was doing was necessary. And you know what I'm saying, the intern guy, to me, that's when he had went in there and he did that and he kind of failed. That's what I mean when I say he had that hint of jealousy in him. Like, he's seen that, you know what I'm saying, because don't forget, like, he was kind of talking shit about Holden a little bit and all of this too. Like, he really wasn't believing in Holden. And so when he finally went to go do it and he seen that it was something that he couldn't do, that Holden, you know what I'm saying, was amazing at, I think that's what also pushed him to kind of snitch on them and get them out of there, because I think he was, you know what I'm saying, he had that little green eye on Holden, man.
And then, like, Holden was able to improvise, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, there was a scene where him, like I said earlier about his girl wanted him to buy a new pair of shoes. So he's in this shoe store with his girl, and he sees these big ass girl shoes, and he remembered that one of the killer guys that they talked to had a fetish for women's shoes. So he's like, yo, give me the biggest size, you know, that you have in women's shoes. And then Holden goes, you know, into the sale, and was like, look, I got a prize if you talk. So he got the dude to talk, and then he gave the dude the shoes, the women's shoes. So it was like, this dude is out with his girl. You're supposed to be spending time with your woman, and you're thinking about tactics, you know what I'm saying? But when you go meet with these killers, so it was like Holden, it felt like Holden couldn't separate home from work. And then when
Right.
you mixing that in with your girl, I think that's what the biggest demise of that relationship was, that he kept bringing work home, and then interchanging that with her and all that type of shit. I just think that was I think that was a recipe for disaster there.
And it was, but I think that the weight of what they were doing was a little bit more important in that relationship. And for me, I really didn't care for the character of his girlfriend anyway, only because like it was kind of a little bit too early. Like I remember he brought her to the dinner with Tinch and his wife and all that kind of stuff. Like everything was just happening like way too fast for, you know what I'm saying, for what they were doing and everything like that. And then like in the midst of them trying to create this relationship, like he would be gone for weeks. You know what I'm saying? He would spend too much time away from her. Like, so all of that compared, you know what I'm saying? You got to bring that back and then try to still have a relationship. It was just too much for him to be in that situation with him doing what he was doing. I think the work was a lot more important than the relationship.
Yeah, and with Tench it was different because and I think what the biggest demise with him and his relationship with his wife was the fact of there's always a thing when I think it wasn't said, but I think that it was understood that they couldn't have kids. It seemed like that's what the vibe was. So they adopted this child. And so this child was just, he was just odd. And then that was also something else that you seem to notice. We'll get more into that when we get to season 2. But it was like with Tench, with the work that he was doing and the oddness of this child that he's raising, you started to see he would look at that kid funny. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
And it's because then it made me, I don't know about the rest of the audience, but it made me even look at the kid weird, because it's like, okay, so we sitting here, and then, the whole thing of, this is one of the hugest questions. I don't think it's still been solved. They say, are killers born, or are they
created,
evolved, or however you want to call it? And it's I don't think it can be. I think that's a question that can't be answered. I don't think there's scientific evidence that say, oh, when this child was born, we could tell that he was a killer. I don't know if it's developed or if it's something that's just in the child. It seems if I had to put a percentage on it, I would say that it's probably 60-40 more on developed.
Really?
60. Yeah, only because I think that you can raise a kid to, the example I always use, you can have 2 twins in a house and you can raise them exactly the same. Become a millionaire, and the other one could be a crackhead living on the street. And you raise them in exactly the same way, but their brains, their terminology, and the way they view life, even though they can be twins, they still view life differently. And I think that you can be born into thinking differently, and there's nothing that your parents can do about it. And then there's also little things that will attract you to it. Because that's the thing. It's you could be attracted to, causing violence. That seems like that's something that you're born with, but it also could develop into something more serious. So it's one of those questions that is tough to answer. What is your take on that type stuff?
I don't think it's necessarily. I think that the analogy you gave was good, but I don't think it's that simple. You know what I mean? I think you can be raised in a great household with 2 parents, and you know what I'm saying, and all of this great stuff. But you also have to remember that you have, people have experiences outside of their households. People have experiences outside of, their environments. And so, one traumatic experience can change somebody's life forever. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily have to be, something as extreme as, seeing somebody get shot or something like that. It could be, somebody has been sheltered their whole life. There's been, how many times have you talked to a person that was sheltered their whole life, and then once they get to college, they just wild the fuck out? You know what I mean? I think it's a mixture of, you know what I'm saying, your upbringing, as well as your environment, as well as the experiences you have outside of home and, you know what I'm saying, like outside of school and shit like that. Like, I know plenty of kids I grew up with who they had two parents in the household, you know what I'm saying? They had everything they wanted and they ended up selling dope. And it was like they didn't even need to sell dope. They just was selling dope. You know what I mean? Like I think it's just the experiences, you know what I'm saying, of all of those mixed together. And I think that's what ends up, you know what I'm saying, creating the personalities that we end up seeing. I think serial killers and people of that nature eventually end up being created. I don't think that they're born that way because, you know what I'm saying, once you're born, it's only so many things that you know what I'm saying, that you inherently know how to do. Like, you know how to breathe. You know what I'm saying? You know how to move your eyes and your arms and all that shit. Like, you eventually learn how to walk and talk and do all that other stuff. But I mean, you already know how to kind of talk. You just don't know what language you speak at. You know what I mean? So I think that when we talk about serial killers, like, it's, to me, I think that trauma plays a huge part in that. When you think about guys like Ted Bundy, you think about guys like Charles Manson, you think about guys like you know what I'm saying, like just any serial killer for that matter. Like, when you think about the things that they've done and the way that they did things, like, I'm sure that somewhere in their life you can go back and connect the trauma to what they've done. You know what I'm saying, or how they became who they were. I don't necessarily think you were born into something like that, but I think that it could definitely evolve into something.
The reason I say born is a percentage of it is the fact of, I think that that's just like people who are, some people are quick tempered and some people are not. And I think that some people are able to endure a lot of things differently. And I think that that's just the way their brain is scientifically made up. I think that some people can take certain things or take certain criticisms that others can't. I mean, that's just like, I would say to my son all the time, like, just to try to drill it in his head as he's young, like, don't fold to peer pressure. You know what I'm saying? Right. No matter what it is, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, I've been called tons of names. I've been called a bitch. I've been called this and I've been called that. I can endure a lot of that stuff because I'm not going to let you determine what I'm going to do just because you call me names. So it's like, I think that I don't think everybody can deal with that, because some people can fold under peer pressure because they would think of how somebody, would think of them if they don't do. I don't know, like, and that could be also something that's developed. I mean, that's just my interpretation of it. But to get back to Manson, Manson was season 1. Was that the end?
No, 2.
No, he was season 2, so he didn't come up yet. So I'll hold that till later. But like, I think that a lot of these serial killers, man, and when you think of somebody like Holden Ford, it's very interesting because, like you said earlier, like, I think that when they was listening to those tapes, it seemed like they couldn't separate, who from who. It's like, damn, like, if we didn't know, if we played this tape for somebody, you know what I'm saying, and cut out the beginning of it where he was like, I'm Special Agent Holden Ford, and just played the tape.
It sounded like two serial killers.
Yeah, they're like, who, like, which one is the target? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So, but I think that when, like we were saying, once Dr. Carr actually went out in the field, and then her personal life was just as crazy.
Yeah, too. she was a lesbian.
Yeah, and like, and
she was trying to hide
in the 70s. Yeah, like,
trying to hide it.
Yeah, that and it's crazy that, like, that whole thing is crazy how we do people when it comes in that whole little thing there. But
I think that's a at the time, you still got to remember too, like, America was super religious too. You know what I mean? Like, so, with religion being one of the major, you know what I'm saying, major things in America, and people using that as an excuse to do certain things. Because I think this was at the time was in the '60s, mid to late '60s at the time. Because I think that season 2 started around like in the '70s, right?
No, no, it started. The first episode was in '77.
Okay, so it was in the '70s, and
Yeah.
then the season 2 was what, the '80s.
Actually, I don't think they got into the '80s yet.
So it was all the '70s.
Well, when was the?
That's where my confusion was coming from, because I thought it was like the late '60s and then going into the '70s.
They might have got into the '70s because if I remember correctly, the child murders
was in the
Atlanta
'70s,
was,
'80s.
Yeah, so I think it was going into the '80s.
Okay.
But
so,
like,
but in that time span, though, like you got to remember, like religion was super heavy. So what I'm saying, people was using religion for a lot of that. A lot of the stuff to be able to say, what I'm saying, it's not, it's not Christian to be gay and God is looking down on you. And I think that at the end of the day, man, I think that if people really just, worry more so about themselves and let everybody else live the life that they want to live, I don't even think this would be an issue. Like why do you care if, like your next door neighbor is gay or lesbian or whatever? Like, that really doesn't affect you that much. You know what I mean?
I don't think
like,
it affects you. Well,
you don't really.
Well, I don't think it affects you at all. I mean,
it could affect you as far as like, if they like just as well as any couple, honestly. Like if they, arguing every night, fighting every night and shit like that. But I mean, like, that's what I mean, like, as much, like, as long as they living their life and doing their thing, like, how's that affecting you? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying. Because my thing is, like, some people will say, "Oh, well, I gotta explain this to my kids," and it's like, "Yo, it's a teacher moment."
No,
like,
you don't.
Like,
you really don't.
I mean, you don't, but at the same time, it's like, man, I'll look at my kids and be like, "Look, yo, like, there's some people who like the same sex of people." You know what I'm saying? Like that is what it is. Like, it's a reality that they're gonna have to face at some point anyway. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that some people just don't be wanting to have a conversation with their child about stuff that they're uncomfortable about. And I think a lot of it is the fact that they're uncomfortable. And it's like, well, how can you have a conversation with your child if you ain't comfortable, with that concept?
Right.
That's why I think a lot of people get upset with it. And like, I didn't have a problem with it. It didn't affect her work. She was able to do her job.
Yeah, she was still shit.
Yeah, like, she was, very, very. And then I think that helped because, like, she didn't have any attraction with the guys that she was working with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that can interfere with work when you're sitting here trying to impress somebody when these motherfuckers ain't even attracted to you at all. But they didn't know that in the beginning. I don't think they found out about her
until like season 2.
Yeah, like they had no idea.
Season 2 is when we really get into the lives of the characters. I think season 1 was just basically just showing us what was really going on. It was pretty much giving us the foundation of the world that we enter when we're watching the show. You know what I'm saying? It's letting us know about these FBI agents who are creating this division or this subdivision of the FBI that's basically going to kind of show us, you know what I'm saying, a different side of society and be able to kind of foretell, you know what I'm saying, the kind of people that we're dealing with and be able to categorize these people in a way.
And look, I think season 2 was really the most interesting one. And before we get into that one, though, I think that the way that season 1 ended was very telling because, like, it got to a point where they was meeting with all of these different serial killers, and they pretty much got too busy with meeting with these other serial killers and also working on active cases. Holden didn't have the time to go see, you know what I'm saying, their first subject in Kemper. So Kemper's like, well, shit, the only way I could get attention is I gotta, try to kill myself. So he tries to kill himself, and then it gets word to Holden. So Holden flies out there on his own to go meet with Kemper. So him and Kemper are talking, and then Kemper's able to get out of the bed. And when the guard walks off, and there's this whole scene of, he's like talking about, well, these are all the ways that I can kill you, and you know what I'm saying, all this type of shit. And then he gives them a hug, and then Holden takes off running, and then that's when we find out Holden couldn't breathe. And then Holden ended up being diagnosed with what do you call it? Anxiety. He had anxiety.
Yeah.
And so he had basically like a small little heart attack or whatever. And so Holden had to start taking Valium and all this type shit. And that really took you into season 2, because season 2, it started out, Holden was MIA. They didn't know where Holden was.
Right.
And so so then once they was able to get the whole little thing of where they found him, and Tinch came out and got him and was like, look, he told them what it was. He was like, look, you can't say shit about this. And they knew that if they found out that he had anxiety, like he wouldn't be able to do the type. They would basically put him on a desk. Like Holden would be stuck to a desk, and like I think that Holden is too valuable to the work that they was doing to put him on a desk.
Yeah. Yeah, so just real quick, a recap of some of the people that were actually in season 1. They're actually real serial killers. You guys can go check them out. Dennis Rader, also known as the BTK killer. Monty Rissell, Ed Kemper, who we spoke about a lot. Jerry Brudos and Richard Speck. You guys can go check them out, research them, see what they did. But these are just a few of the people that they interrogated in season 1. And so we moving on to season 2.
Get into the beat. Yeah, and the thing about the B2K killer, when they was talking to him, with the whole Son of Sam shit, like this motherfucker started to say that his neighbor's dog was a demon, and like the demon was telling him to go and kill people. And I think that, man, the interesting things about people who speak about stuff like that, and then he even mentioned The Exorcist in the damn interview about like, and saying that like all that stuff is true, and they told him to kill people and all that type stuff. I thought that was, I think it's interesting, but then at the same time, I feel like those ain't nothing but excuses.
That's Richard Speck.
What's that Speck?
I think that's Richard Speck. Okay, so the crazy story is so when he mentions The Exorcist, Richard Speck is actually in the movie The Exorcist. So if you watch the first Exorcist, it's like a scene where I guess like they're performing like brain surgery or some shit in the movie. And he's the dude that's performing brain surgery. So if you know what I'm saying, if you know anything about like The Exorcist and the Poltergeist and all these weird stories surrounding, you know what I'm saying, like the little girl died mid-production of one of the movies. You know what I'm saying, like a lot of people's lives was fucked up behind it. And Richard Speck, he ended up getting locked up using The Exorcist as an excuse, of course, but that's what that reference is.
Yeah, man, that was wild, man. Like I didn't see that, man. That little correlation that you did there. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I did a little bit of research. Man, I had to go back, and I think that's another thing, man. When you watch shows like this, and you find out that they're using real people, I think that it, they let you go back and do some research and learn, you know what I'm saying, a little bit about, you know what I'm saying, the history of the country and just all the kind of weird shit that, you know what I'm saying, is going on in America.
Yeah, man. And then what was great about season 2, like you said earlier, like they dove more into like the characters' lives. And like also what happened at the end of season 1 was Holden's relationship ended up getting ended because, you know, he ended up thinking some stuff was wrong. He ended up seeing his girlfriend like with the people that she does her school stuff with. It was some party type thing, and he went in. It was like a dark party or whatever they call that shit. He's seeing her all up on this dude, and he just leaves. But he ended up getting back with her. But then she ended up breaking it off some other shit. But in season 2, that's when Tench's son, the adopted son that he was raising, within the mix of all of this shit that they doing, there was a toddler that was murdered, and then there was 2 kids who put a toddler on a cross, thinking that they would bring that child back. And so with that going on, also with him interviewing all of these serial killers that he's interviewing, and also working on these active cases, then he got this child that don't talk, but he does some shit like this. That's gotta be difficult to deal with, to be trying to make a change in the world, to take these type of people off the street, and then you don't know if you living with the type person that you might have to end up arresting later on.
Right.
And then Dr. Carr,
I think it was a little bit different tense, like you were saying, because they couldn't have a baby.
Yeah. And then they're looking at a child that's like,
I think that added some too.
And then it also goes back to that: are they born this way, or is it developed? You see what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, they don't know who gave birth to this child. Well, I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. They never showed that in the series. But you're raising a child that you don't know their parents. You don't know what they were like. You don't know what they was into. So that's why I say, well, at the end of the day, like, this kid has his own mind. Like, yeah, they're raising him, you know, from what we can see, the right way and all this type stuff. But he still got these different tendencies.
He got in the Tench's office too.
He did what? Oh, when he went in, Tench's office.
Remember, he got in the Tench's office, seeing pictures.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He did see some pictures. Now,
so I think that had something to do with it.
So that was before they did the thing with the kid on the cross.
Yeah.
So you think that dramatic experience of seeing those type pictures sparked something in his head to where that he would do something like that? But you also got to realize, you got to tie in the same fact of they was taking this kid to church and they believed in religion and stuff, because for them to put him on the cross and think that would bring that child back alive, that's also a whole other thing.
Well, yeah, because I think for the kid, I think that he was really just trying to do something that he thought was helping. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? That's what I was saying with religion being so, or with religion being as strong as it was during that time. You know what I'm saying? With them always going to church and everything like that, you got to, you know what I'm saying? This is something that he's thinking that is possible for him to do, to be able to bring this kid back to life. And then you also got to remember that, you know, the seeing the pictures and everything else like that, he's also realized, I think he also kind of realized that Tench was doing something good. Like Tench was trying to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think he realized that Tench was doing, you know what I'm saying, like good work as far as like solving cases and getting rid of all these bad guys. So I think that all that kind of culminated in him trying to do something that was good, that everybody else looked at as, or misunderstood as, a criminal act.
Yeah, and then when you get into Dr. Carr, like, you know, the first time she actually went to like this bar type thing, this bar scene, She went with Holden, and her and Holden was having this conversation, and she noticed the bartender, and I guess she kind of got that vibe from the bartender. And then what ended up happening was she ended up going on her own, and so these dudes was hitting on her, was hitting on the bartender girl, and then the bartender girl made it clear to Wendy that, oh, they're not gonna get very far because I'm not, looking that way, type of thing. So then she was like, oh shit, she like me. So then they ended up forming this relationship. But then they got their own shit within their relationship because they're so different. Like she is a psychiatrist and this girl is a bartender. And it's like I think that it was a son. She had a son.
A son.
And then she was also dealing with the, with the ex and all this type of stuff. And that relationship, it ended up crashing, but we'll get there when we get there. But like I think that the cases in season 2 also going on with the interviews and stuff that they got. Like season 2 was really like I think it was very fascinating the way they was able to cram all this stuff in our episodes because you also got to remember they were solving that one case where the one guy that had murdered that girl.
Yep.
And also Holden did that same shit again where what ended up happening was this dude was working on a telephone pole. And he would see this little girl get out the bus every day. And then what happened, the little girl ended up coming up missing. And so they was able to put the time frame together when the girl was missing and who might have seen it. And then they start interviewing this dude. And like he wasn't really giving up a lot. And then Holden ended up bringing the rock in there and bringing some other things that was in there and started talking like, yo, like man, the way these girls are growing up nowadays, he was like, man, they look older than what they really are. And he was able to get the dude to start like opening up, like, yeah, man, you see what I'm saying? Like that girl didn't look 12, she looked at least 16 and all this shit. Holden was able to crack him by speaking his language and getting him to think that, like, yo, I'm on your side, man. You know what I'm saying? And I think that with that case, one of those, live cases going on top of getting the Manson interview that you had brought up earlier. Now, the interesting thing about Charles Manson, the very big the biggest thing is Manson never killed anybody. He just convinced people to do the shit for him. So technically, he was like the first person that was basically locked up for some shit that he didn't even really commit the crimes. And there is
I think he was the reason for the whole conspiracy to murder thing. I think that's really, he's one of the ones that brought that into full effect.
But you got to remember, one of the guys that actually murdered people, because remember it was a guy and 2 girls.
Tex Watson.
And they interviewed him, and he said, like, dude, I take full responsibility for what I did. He was like, I didn't do what Charlie said. So I think that was confirmation of like, yo, like, okay, yeah, he was a very convincing guy, but at the same time, like, he didn't actually go out and commit these actions. They didn't have to do what the dude said. They was just kids who was looking for guidance, and they just actually went to the wrong person. And I think that there's a TV series came out a couple of years ago. It was 2 seasons. It's called Aquarius. That was really good. It was on Charles Manson, and it also it was more on this detective of the LAPD at the time, and Charles Manson, and it was really good thing to watch. So I would suggest people to go watch that as well. But so you're able to get the interview with Manson, and you solve this one case, and then you go into the whole thing of them being sent to Atlanta because of these child murders of black kids.
Now we talked a little bit about Manson. To me, I think Manson was that fill-in for the short time that we see him. I think he was that fill-in for Kemper. I think he was the one that kind of did that mental chess game with Holden. Because if you ever like paid attention to anything about Manson or like watched any of the interviews or whatever, he's highly intelligent.
Oh yeah.
And he's so intelligent to the point to where some of the shit that he says sounds like far out stupid, but he has like to me, I feel like he would have a super high IQ, and then for him to be able to manipulate those people to be able to do what they did, even if you know what I'm saying, intention was there or not, or whatever the case had been, like for him to be able to do that and then not, you know what I'm saying, have to really lay a finger on anybody, like that lets you know just how dangerous somebody like that is. And to me, I think that was another, you know what I'm saying, another rivalry or pseudo rivalry that they had Holden go against, because I think Holden was so eager to get this interview because he knew I think he kind of knew how intense was, and he knew he was going to get somebody else. So, yeah, but you know what I'm saying, on to Atlanta.
But also at the same time, with Atlanta, we also have to mention when the thing happened with Tench and his son, Tench had to keep going home every weekend and one, like every weekend and a day during the week, because his son had to see a psychiatrist, and he and his wife had to see one as well.
Yep.
And his wife was getting more and more upset and more fed up with the fact that, like, we need to put all of our focus into our son. And he's like, yo, I got to do my job. I got to go to Atlanta. And it was like, watching that, it was disappointing for me, because it's like, I feel like when you have that type of job that consists of the type of things that he's doing, it also consists of the importance that it has. Like, this ain't just no regular shit. It ain't like he's out there a technician or some shit. Like, this dude is really like saving lives. Like, the more and more people that they're able to get off the street, the more and more lives they can save. And I get it. Family should be priority. Like, I get that. But for her to take it personal the way that she took it, to make it seem like he's picking work over family.
Yeah.
I just feel like she needed to support him more. And I felt like maybe now we don't know this for fact, I'm just saying, maybe if he didn't have to keep going back and forth and to see if this was some shit that she could handle, then maybe that they could have handled this stuff in Atlanta quicker. Because he had to keep leaving. And Tench is a guy that, even though we talk a lot about Holden, Tench was a very intelligent guy as well. Like, he wasn't no slouch in what he was doing. But I just also wanted to mention that, because when we get into the Atlanta child murders, it's like, you got to understand, like, this dude was going back and forth, catching flights, trying to also solve this case, but then at the same time, trying to fix his stuff at home and actually putting forth that effort to be a husband when he was present. You know what I'm saying? I just felt like the way that she was shitting on him sometimes, I felt like that was a little fucked up.
I agree. I definitely agree. But I think what's interesting on the flip side of that is the fact that him going to investigate these child murders, I think that kind of made him or kind of pushed him to see how important it is to really go back and be more involved. Because as episodes went on and as we've seen, he was really doing his best to like get more involved and, you know what I'm saying, go back and, you know what I'm saying, do stuff you know, so with the son and with the wife, and try to spend more family time. I think as he started to see these murders and investigate these murders, I think that he kind of realized the importance of him being there for the family in that moment.
Yeah, yeah, just true. That's true. Also, man, like when you talk about the Atlanta child murders, man, it's like he used like this one tactic where he used the one dude Smith, the dude that ratted on him in season one.
Mm-hmm.
He took him to a neighborhood in Baltimore, and it was trying to see if a white dude can go into a predominantly black neighborhood and convince the kid to come with him. And so it wasn't successful. So he used the black guy. He was able to round up like 10 kids and like on a regular, like he just kept doing it. So he was able to come up with a profile. Holden was able to come up with a profile of the only way these kids are going with this person is this person has to be black. He was like, because especially in those times, the way that, I mean, I'm pretty sure you would tell them, hey, don't go anywhere with no white man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I'm pretty sure, like, they're telling kids at a very young age, like, don't go somewhere with a white man. And the people from Atlanta and these mothers that formed this group because they felt that they was being ignored, so they formed their own group. Now, it was funny how Holden was pulled in because he went into the hotel room and the one black girl that worked at the desk, that shit was funny.
Yeah.
Because Holden thought, because remember his girl broke up with him. So Holden is out here single. And so he think that this girl is coming on to him.
He thought he was about to get some brown sugar. He thought he was about to get some brown sugar.
But he thought so. But he was ready. But he come downstairs and she get him in the car, and then she take him to meet these, like, I think it was 5 mothers. And he's like, the fuck? Like, I'm thinking I'm about to get some. And so she takes him down there, and so they're telling them their situation and all of this type stuff. And all you kept hearing was, oh, well, the Klan did it. Like, the Klan got something to do with it. The Klan got something to do. And, like, Holden is so strung up on his profile. He's like, yo, like, there's no way a white man could do it. And then it got to the point where, like, people was getting upset with him because he's like, like, everybody like, man, ain't no way a black man would do this. Now, at the time, there wasn't really no other black serial killers. So it's like,
well,
that
they
just
had
wasn't
one.
shit that we did. You know what I'm saying? As
They
black people, you know what I'm saying? Like, the way that the profile worked. Yeah.
Hold on, what's his name? It's Elmer Wayne Henry. That's the only one that they knew of at the time.
Yeah, but like, and that's the whole concept of 9 out of 10. That's what 9 out of 10 means. That one person, one person. So it's like 9 overrules 1. So it was like they thought it was, and then it was in the South. And like, look, I get the whole thinking of like, this has to be, you know, a white man to sit here and collect these kids and kill these kids. But you also got to add logic to it. Like, why would 13, 14, 15-year-old kids just go somewhere with a white man? Just get in the car with a white man. Like, even if they did offer them money, like, it sounded funny, but like, the people of Atlanta was so strung up on, like, yo, like, there's no way a black person would do this. And like, then what I liked it about Holden was able to, no matter, like, Holden didn't know how to read a room. You know what I'm saying? Like, he would go into a room and he already got his mind set on what he thinks, what's going on. He don't care if it's off topic, if it's gonna hurt anybody's feelings. Like, really, honestly, it seems like he's really like ADD/autistic. It's just like, he's just like, he was just like, yo, I'm getting straight to the point. And even though people would get upset with him, like, Holden, like, we have to take all of this data that we got, and we have to, you know what I'm saying, be open-minded. He was like, yeah, I'm open-minded, but I know this has to be a black guy. And even though going into it, because this came out in 2019, and me personally, I'm just coming off of Monster, the Atlanta Child Murders podcast.
Yeah.
I'm coming off of, they had a series on the ID channel called the Atlanta Child Murders. So when I seen this, and then this is the thing, Mindhunters, when I seen season 2, click, watch. I had no idea that, I didn't watch no trailer. I didn't watch anything. So this shit
you ain't need to.
Dude, this shit just sprung up on me, and I'm like, dude, like I just listened to this podcast. I'm like, I just watched that. So, like, that shit even made it even better for me. I was like, oh my God, man. I was like, man, this shit is right up my alley. So, shit, I'm doing all the talking, but you go ahead, man.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I also listened to, I didn't see the ID series, but I did also listen to the Monster podcast, because I was coming off of listening to the one before that about some lady named Tara Henley or something like that. So they did the season 2, or they did the next season about the Atlanta child murders. And when you listen to that podcast and you hear the conflicting stories of, you know what I'm saying, the people who said that he couldn't have did it, and then there was people who were saying that of course he did it. You know, it's kind of weird because, you know what I'm saying, just a quick backstory, they never charged him with any of the child murders. They only charged him with the murder of 2 adults. Mm-hmm. And so, in a sense, it's still people like, well, if he was the child murderer, we talk about Wayne Williams, if y'all don't know. I think his name is Wayne Williams. But they was, you know what I'm saying, they was just saying like, well, if he's the Atlanta child murderer, then why didn't he get charged with any of the murders of the children? Why just 2 adults? So, you know what I'm saying, I think that's a reason for, you know what I'm saying, a lot of conflicting stories around this case. What I thought it was very interesting that they took this particular time to bring in the FBI aspect of it, because we know that the FBI was involved in it, of course, but you know what I'm saying, for them to bring in, you know, Holden and Tench and Dr. Carr into this situation, and then, you know what I'm saying, have them work with version of the FBI. I guess they call it the GBI or something like that. But to have them all working together and everything, and you seeing so many different aspects, you know what I'm saying, you seeing so many different resources being used like that. I think they took over like a library, not a library, they took over like an old school or something like that to set up headquarters, you know what I'm saying, to be able to have everybody working. And then, you know what I'm saying, you really got to see just how intelligent Holden was, because he was coming up with different tactics based off of the information that they was getting. So like when they were talking about when they had just got Wayne Williams or whatever, talking about him dumping the body over the bridge or whatever, and then they had, you know what I'm saying, Holden didn't believe it was him at first. And so when that had happened, you remember he had set up all the police cars around the bridge just to see if it was going to happen again, because they had found the body in the river. Just see how intelligent Holden was, especially in the midst of Tench not really being there, because, you know, we spoke about how Tench is back, and we got a chance to really see him kind of stand on his own without Tench really, you know what I'm saying, being back there with that support like he usually does. And, you know what I'm saying, we got to kind of see him become, you know what I'm saying, like his own man in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, and this is true. And I think the way that they was able to, and then and they did investigate the Klan. Now, they had one cop that was down there that was tapping this one family, and like this one Klan family, like they get pulled in for shit all the time, and they got to the point where the police didn't want to fuck with them, because they was like, every time we bring them in, you know, they're able to sue us and all this type of shit and get us for harassment and all this type of stuff. So they did follow up those leads, and you know, and the one guy, and like I said, man, the dude, you hate to admit, a racist motherfucker was smart, but like they was interviewing him, and he was like, dude, when they said that I think it was like we got to do something with him, or we got to grab the girl, or something like that. And he used the First Amendment. He was like, "This is the First Amendment. I can say and think what I want to think in my household." He was like, "That don't mean I did it though."
Yeah, no, that's when they was tapping him.
So
they was using that the videotape.
Yeah, so they was tapping him. So they was doing all these, but they got to the point where they had to go off of everything because they was getting nowhere before they heard the one body, and then that was some shit that they didn't even want to do. Cause the one officer, the one sheriff dude, it's like we don't have the man. Cause Holden came up with the idea of before we get to that, so Tench is coming home, but coming back from coming home, and they're standing outside. They found a body in the river, and they found the body in the river naked because reports had came out that they found some evidence. They found some fiber and all this type shit. So the killer started dumping the bodies in the river, but naked. So they was outside in the river. So Tench comes down there and Holden like, yo, let me talk to you for a second. So he pulled him aside, and he was like, yo, like I really need you here, man, because he never told Holden what was going on. So that was a powerful scene when Tench was sitting there and he finally told Holden what was going on and why he had to keep going back home. Yeah. And then Holden is like, fuck. And so like he starts giving him sympathy. He was like, look, man, I don't want your sympathy. You know what I'm saying? He was just like, he just felt that they had more of a working relationship and it wasn't Holden's business. Now he told Wendy Carr beforehand. He told Wendy, matter of fact, I think he told Wendy, and then once he flew down there, then he told Holden. So he kind of told them really kind of like back to back. So he tells him that, and I think that was a powerful scene. And then I thought it was powerful, and I thought it was funny at the end when he was like, "You looking anxious, you need to take a volume," and then he walks off. I was like, "Oh, that's kind of fucked up." But like, so they find the body, and then they come up with the idea of like, look, we're running out of options. It was like, let's leave. Let's have somebody cover every bridge. I think it ended up being I think it was 16 bridges or something like that. And so the sheriff guy didn't want to do it because he was like, we ain't got this kind of manpower to be doing this. And so then it shows you all the scenes of like them falling asleep and them bringing coffee, and then also showing things like, because they brought in one black FBI agent, Jim Barney, and so he's talking to this one officer that brought them coffee, and Barney was with Holden at the time, and the cop was like, it was a black cop. He was like, man, this ain't no way this could be a black person. He was like, man, this ain't nothing but a cracker. It was like one of them, that profile thing is bullshit and all this type of stuff like that. And so it just showed them out there, mosquitoes, how bad mosquitoes are by the river. Yeah. Like, so they're showing you all of this type stuff. And then we get to the point where he's about to call it off. The sheriff's like, look, I can't keep giving these dudes overtime. This is the last day. Now, I don't know if this was written into the script, but let's just say it was. So this is basically the last day to sit up under these bridges to see if something happened. Somebody hears a splash, see a car coming down the street with their lights off, they turn their lights on, and then they go to turn around. So then they pull them over, and then it's what's his name? Williams.
Wayne Williams. Yeah.
Wayne Williams. So they pull him over, and I think it's so wild, man, because like the thing with Wayne Williams was, I think that he thought that he was smarter than everybody else. Because they ask him a question, and the very first thing he say is, oh, y'all talking about those dead kids. And it's like, wait, ask him why you pulled me over. And he was like, oh, because of them dead kids or something like that. And I'm like, yo, like this is fucking wild. Like, why would you just off the rip say some shit like that? I thought that to me, it just felt like that was one of those arrogant type of things where it's like, I'm smarter than you. I've been doing this all this time, and y'all ain't got shit.
Yeah.
So I can say
Yeah.
some shit like this.
Yeah, so they you know what I'm saying, they apprehend him, you know what I'm saying, take him down for an investigation, and then basically it goes into the story of, you know what I'm saying, the Atlanta child murders from that point on. And then like kind of in the back of it all, like they were still kind of investigating like the KKK in the weird way. And then but it was mostly just about them and the Wayne Williams situation. They show how the reporters and everything were coming to the house. They kind of gave you like a small little backstory on Wayne Williams, and then they showed like Holden going to the house, everything like, and then they found the papers or something, which connect pretty much just how they got him.
Yeah, and I think what I thought was stupid about this time, and this is shit that really happened, was when Wayne was on their radar. So basically, okay, so they searched the car. He gives them permission to search the car. They found rope, gloves, and there was some other shit. And Wayne was like, well, this ain't my car, this is my uncle's car, all this type shit. So Holden and Tench thought that they were smart enough to bag some shit that they felt was evidence, but they didn't bag anything when they let them go because they couldn't hold them because they didn't have enough to hold them. So they let them go. They go to the house the next day. The car's like, dude, he took that shit to motherfucking. Look, he didn't take it to the wash with them Dr. Dre and
he took that shit to the cleaners. Yeah, he took that shit to the cleaners, boy.
Yes, sir. But that thing was clean. But that car looked brand new. And so when they was able to put him on the radar, like they took it to the one mayor guy, which because Atlanta had a black mayor at the time, you know, and so he didn't want
Maynard.
Like, dude, that was another thing that kind of slowed the process was the fact of him not really wanting to cooperate, but at the same time, he looking at re-election, and they're like, this shit ain't gonna look right if we say that we're looking at a black suspect for these crimes. So there was a lot of, and I love how they put that in there. There was a lot of politics played in this, especially when it comes to Atlanta child murders, because there was a re-election coming up. There was positions that was up for grabs. That was the first time Atlanta really down south had a black mayor. So it was like it didn't look good on the media that all these black kids kept coming up missing. But then at the same time, I think that for some of the voters, they really wanted. I think they wanted it to be a white guy so bad that
because that's what they was used to.
Yeah, and I think that they didn't even really wanted it solved. But then once they did put it on Wayne, it was like, oh, y'all came down here and basically found a man that fit the description. And it was like, okay, I get the frustration. I get you being upset. But at the same time, it's like, wouldn't you really want the person off the street, even if they was black? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think that they would, but knowing the history of the South, you know what I'm saying, you also gotta think about the stipulations that come along with that. Like once it becomes a black suspect, then now all of a sudden we got all of these cops stopping these black men, harassing these black men, and you know what I'm saying, doing what they do best, you know what I'm saying, possibly killing a few of them, you know what I'm saying, beating them up and shit like that. So I mean, I think that it was more so just the fear of what they knew could possibly happen in the South at the time. And you know what I'm saying? Like, you also got to remember that, you know, with the history of that, they used to, you know what I'm saying, white people killing black people. So to hear that it's a black dude going around doing all this, and it's one of our own, that's kind of, you know what I'm saying, that's kind of a big pill to swallow.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it definitely is. And to go back to what you were saying, for him to, and I think it was interesting to the fact of when Wayne was on their radar, they
Mm-hmm.
news media sitting outside his house every day, cops sitting outside his
Yeah,
house every day. It's like, yo, what is that gonna do? Like, I felt like that,
yeah.
like the dumbest tactic to do is to sit there and surveillance this dude all day, every day. I thought that was ridiculous, but like this was shit that
Well,
really
it was.
happened. Like they had that. You
It
got
was to me. It was just the pressure, right? So if this was the dude that was basically doing it, and we constantly surveying him, we constantly got, you know what I'm saying, we constantly at his house, then, and by their logic at least, then all the murders should stop. And if all the murders stop, then basically we got the right guy. And so, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's kind of how they was just looking at it, just to see if, you know what I'm saying, if we put the pressure on him, is he going to continue to do this and we could possibly catch him doing it? Or is he going to stop doing it and we could basically just be like, yeah, we was right. This was the dude that did it. Because when we start watching him, everything stopped.
yeah, and that it did, and I think that it's for the evidence. I think the reason they ended up only charging him for the two adults, even though they, what Wayne fucked up was he was smart to get rid of the green carpet.
Mm-hmm.
But what he fucked up at is he kept the dog, and it was a small part of green carpet that he didn't get rid of, and they was able to match the dog hair, and the green carpet. So they was able to match that. I think it was to 12. It was either 12 victims. They was able to match the dog hair for 12 and like 5 for the carpet fiber or something like that. But out of the 12 and the 5, 2 of them was the adults. And then also you got to point out the adults that he killed. I think they was like something crazy, like 5'5" or 5'7", like $150. So they was small, like they wasn't big guys.
Yeah, they was small and young. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I think that from when they had the press conference towards the end, and they was talking to the one cop, they was like, well, they're not charging him for the kids. And he was like, well, we know that he could get off on some of the kids because we don't have enough. But we got a ton of evidence on these 2 adults, so at least we could get this person off the street.
Right.
So what people also got to realize is, even though this dude, I think he died a couple years ago, like 2 years ago, like around the time those all the stuff started coming out.
No, I think he's still living.
You sure? I thought they said he died, but whether he didn't know he did, for people gotta realize those 27 kids, those cases is still in an open investigation, just like the damn Zodiac murders, still an open investigation. Like, this shit ain't over. Like, they don't have even though in both cases they have a prime suspect, but there's nothing that's really going to be done about it. So those families still have to deal with the grief of like, okay, there is somebody locked up for it, but then a lot of them still feel like, yo, we don't feel like Wayne did it. You know, so there's absolutely no closure in it. And then I also like the whole part of when they was telling Wayne, and Wayne went to this restaurant and they tried to hang back, and then Wayne come out the drive-through, then pull over, and then get him a burger and fries. He said, I thought y'all might be hungry. That ain't even the funny part.
Man. He was too cool.
The funny part is Titch was hungry. Titch got
he ate that shit. Yeah,
he was eating that shit. And then when they went back to Wayne's house, he was sitting there eating the burger. But he was just sitting in front of the house eating the burger. I thought that shit was fucking hilarious. But I was like, hey, Titch was like, yo, shit, I'm hungry. Like, you know, he bought us some food. I'm eating that shit.
But yeah, so you know what I'm saying, they got him. He is still living though. He is still living.
Oh, okay.
Um, and then they finally show, you know what I'm saying, where Holden go back to the mothers and you know what I'm saying, talk to them, and they, you know what I'm saying, you can kind of see they got some sort of closure off of everything that happened.
Yeah, but then when he went to see those mothers, there were like the mayor and all these type of people was on TV, and she looked at him and said, like, look, there goes the victory lap. And he was like, well, we're gonna have people that are still, he was like, I'm leaving, but we're still gonna have people here that's still gonna be looking into things and stuff like that. And so they get they was able to fly back private. And so they're talking to they new dude that's at the head of everything, and he's like, hey, you know, we're pulling all of our guys and like, hey, you know, take the victory lap and all of that. And Hogan's like shit, 5 minutes ago we said we were leaving some people here. And like now
Yeah.
everybody's leaving. And it's just like we got the person for it. But do you think, okay, let me ask you this. Do you think that so the kids stopped like the logic you used earlier, like the kids stopped coming up missing. That's the whole little thing of like let's
Well,
surveillance.
they never did. They never. It was actually still murders after that.
And see, that's the interesting thing, because what we tend to notice about serial killers are people idolize them, and then they become copycats.
Yeah.
So that's the one strange thing. Like even when it came to the Zodiac killer, there was people who tried to. There was cases in New York City, where they was copycatting the Zodiac killer, and they was doing the same exact things that he was doing in California. They were doing the same shit in New York. So it's like, for somebody to have that itch to wanna, I don't know, kill somebody or go rogue or I don't know, whatever's going on in their life. That's the perfect way to do it, is to like, all right, well, I'm gonna copy what somebody else is doing, because that'll also throw the cops off by like, yo, if I do the shit the same as that way this person did, they're not gonna know what to do, and they're gonna question all the work that they did before. So it's still like one of those type things where it's like it's hard to get a definite answer, because it's like whether it was Wayne or if it wasn't Wayne, if there was somebody that was out to prove a point and became like a copycat, it could have been. It could have been. I can't think of like the word that I wanted to use, but it's still interesting, man. But I think that to bring this into this series, I think that it just made, like, I thought season one. I mean, now season one is good. Don't get me wrong. Like season one is great, but like season two just turned out to be phenomenal.
Because it brought a lot more.
Just really a testament. Yeah, and it was a testament of like them. Like season one was like the blueprint, and like season two is the house being built.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
So I thought that they did a really great job, man. Everybody that was a writer on the show, they deserve some props.
For sure, man. So, man, we gonna get into the rating, man. It's Fire Flame time, man. What are you rating this thing?
I think I mentioned this before when we did Hunters. I think that you judge series differently than you would judge in movies, and I think that they was able to do. They crossed every T and they dotted every I. I mean, like we never even got back to Wendy Carr. Like they even resolved that situation. Like Wendy ended up breaking up with that girl because she overheard her talking to her ex-husband, and her husband
You went mute, bro.
All of this type stuff, and so she breaking that off. Tench went home and saw that his wife, because I remember, because throughout the season she was like, I would like to move, and he kept putting it off and putting it off, and all this type of stuff. I considered it, and it was something that she said that was important. She was like, I'm thinking about leaving the couch. She was like, I don't want to move into a new place with that old couch. And then Tench get home after the child murder thing is over, and she left. And so I feel like every answer, everything that we wanted to know, they answered it. I say all that to say, I'm giving this series a 5 fire flame. I don't think it was anything else. I don't have any criticisms. I think that they did this very well, and I don't know if they got the material to do a third season. I feel like this might be something where it's like, as great as it is, 2 seasons might argue.
Yeah, I agree, man. Not gonna lie though, I would be interested in seeing if they could do a third season. But if they leave it at 2 seasons, I also wouldn't be mad. For me, man, I think the Battle of the Wits is what got me. I think anytime you have a series like this where you got, a lot of intellectual, situations going on, it instantly grabs me. The serial killers automatically grabbed me because we got to see some sort of personality out of them. We got to see, what they were kind of like or what they would have possibly been like. For me, the Charles Manson thing really threw over the edge because I watched a bunch of Manson interviews and just reading up on him and the whole Helter Skelter thing and just the intelligence that some of these guys had. And, the comparison between them and Holden. And then, you got to see like you said, just everything kind of, come together. There was no stone left unturned. There was no loose ends or none of that. Everything was basically finished up. Everything was solved. Everything was out the way. I would have liked to see a lot more of Dr. Carr. I think that she could have, had a very significant, role in some of the things in Atlanta. But, like for the most part, I think that it was a very interesting and captivating show. The actors did a phenomenal job. The young lady who played the hotel clerk, the young black lady, she did an amazing job. Especially them having to play in a timepiece. You don't really get actors to be able to play in a timepiece and really captivate the time. So I think that they did great in that, man. So for me, I'm giving it 5 out of 5.
Yes, sir. We see eye to eye on this. And
yes,
even the points that you made, like there's something to, like they know we having a fascination with serial killers, like and to keep giving us like these type of series, these type of documentaries, these type of movies, and all this type of stuff, like it's something that's that people watch a lot of. They just like that new joint on Netflix where my man killed his wife and kids because he met another girl. It's like that thing it blew up, like it was number 1 on Netflix instantly. So like to put a show like this, and I think that I like shows that make you think, and this gave it to you. Like it's a psychological thriller drama, fucking like it's
murder mystery.
Yeah, it's like everything like all tied up into one, and then when you write it right, it's all the recipes of a great show, man.
Yeah, man. So I think that's it, bro. You guys could check me out at Scoots Bronson on Twitter. You can check me out Scoots Bronson _TV on Instagram. You can also check out Scoots Bronson TV on YouTube. Make sure you check me out at 15 Minutes of Fame. I got another dope episode coming up, but make sure you go check out the one I got with Cheese Navy. And yeah, that's all I got, man. What's up, bro?
Oh man, just check out the Stolen Time Pod and S. Foster 8 on Instagram. S. Foster 8 is also on Twitter. The Stolen Time Podcast page on Facebook. Go check out the 28 Minutes or Less, man. Like I'm trying to build up that podcast as well, to get it up there like the Stolen Time Podcast. I'm being more consistent with the 28 Minutes or Less, so be on the lookout for new episodes with that. And that's on all major platforms. So that's all I got to plug, man.
That's what's up, man. Make sure y'all subscribe to this if you just now listening, and make sure y'all hit that subscribe button on YouTube, man. And yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? Like they say in Hollywood, man, that's a wrap.
Cut.